me now, Congressman Joaquin Castro, Democrat from Texas, member of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus. Congressman, what is going on down there?
Well, it's been a tough day, Chris. I think the country has been looking for the Congress to be a partner in governance of this country, and specifically this week in doing something about the humanitarian situation going on our southern border. Unfortunately, Republicans, both in the Senate and in the House, blocked legislation to do anything about it. And so it's been a bleak day. Perhaps we can pass something tomorrow. It's clear that the Department of Homeland Security needs the resources in order to deal with this situation. So I'm hopeful that we can still do something before we leave town.
Part of the reason they had to yank the bill was that in previous instances in which John Boehner has alienated the Tea Party caucus with a piece of legislation, he's found the makeup votes on the Democratic side. My understanding was Leader Pelosi, Democratic Leader Nancy Pelosi, was whipping against this bill because she says it's inhumane and totally insufficient and spends 2/3 of the money on border security, which isn't really the problem.
That's right. Many of us believe that these kids are refugees and should be treated as such, and that most of all, we should not repeal the 2008 law because they should have their chance in court, the due process to make their case for asylum. In fact, Reuters reported on a poll yesterday that showed that 70% of Americans agree that the kids should have their day in court. But like on many other issues, Republicans are nowhere near where the overwhelming majority of American opinion is. And so they've moved forward not only to repeal the 2008 law, but also to make changes to DACA. And I think it's also clear that if you have a Republican majority in the Senate and in the House next January, they will repeal the 2008 law, but they will repeal the existing DACA law.
That seems to be the position right now. The Republicans have coalesced around, which is a kind of pro-deportation position on immigration. Meanwhile, the Senate has gone on recess. They haven't passed their side of it, so nothing's getting done out of this Congress before the August recess, and that leaves the problem still in Texas. And filling that vacuum are militia members who are now patrolling the border. All members of the Texas Democratic congressional delegation, yourself included, called on Attorney General Greg Abbott on Wednesday to denounce militia groups along the border and clarify the jurisdiction these militia groups have to patrol alongside law enforcement and border patrol agents. In the absence of federal action, are we going to see more of this kind of vigilante action down in the state of Texas?
Unfortunately, when there's a void in leadership by government, you're going to see this kind of lawless action where militias with semi-automatic weapons, vigilantes, are going down to the border, have these strike teams or units now. The leader of that group has said that the way that you keep immigrants out of the border is that you point a gun at their head and threaten to shoot them. And these folks are now on the border wearing ski masks and carrying semi-automatic weapons. And what's very unfortunate is that the leadership in Texas, both Rick Perry and the Attorney General Greg Abbott, who's running for governor, have refused to denounce this kind of action. They've remained silent on these militias, and that's just made the problem worse.
So then what next here, Congressman?
Well, I know that earlier my friend Henry Cuellar mentioned all of us being able to get together and come to some kind of compromise. It's imperative that Congress not just be a bystander to governance, that we actually get something done. And unfortunately, today has been emblematic, really, of this term in Congress. It's been the least productive term in congressional history so far. And so, I think the Speaker has a few choices here. He can do what he did with the Violence Against Women Act and Hurricane Sandy relief, which was to work with Democrats to find some reasonable middle ground, or he can continue to be beholden to a group of people who, quite frankly, don't care for him very much and are going to keep moving further and further to the right the more you let them. And that is the group that's led by Ted Cruz. If you keep trying to please that small faction of people who are incredibly influential, but a small faction of people, then you're probably not going to see anything happen until perhaps September. The problem is the money is running out over at DHS.
It is. Congressman Joaquin Castro of Texas, thank you so much.